So, caution, this is a rant. So, this is going to be my experience working as a lube technician. I did 2 years of technical school in high school, and I worked as a lube technician for a year and a half to quit and then never return to the auto repair industry. Before I started working, I went to technical school during high school. I did that for my last 2 years of high school, where I would take a bus and go to the second school to learn automotive technology, and then I'd come back to my normal high school. And I did that with the intent of making auto repair my full-time career. Fast forward to my last 2 weeks of school, I got a lube technician position at my nearest Chevy dealership, and I couldn't have been happier. After finishing the interview and signing all the paperwork, I got to start working. And when I started out, it was great. I was learning all kinds of new things about modern cars, getting to work on those cars, and also be given the tools to go and access training so I can learn more things about these new cars and get the training videos to go over all the new stuff that's coming out. And I loved it. My 18-year-old self absolutely loved it. However, after working a year and a half, I completely dreaded going to work every day. It no longer felt like I was a mechanic, it just felt like I was an assembly line worker trying to bust out cars as fast as possible. So I finally decided to quit, having many reasons for doing so. So, in no particular order, here are my reasons for quitting my job and why I left the industry as a whole. To start with, I got into the automotive repair industry because I enjoyed working on my own cars as a hobby. So naturally, there is nothing really wrong with it. After all, we're told that if you love what you do, then you never actually work a day in your life. Which I think is true to an extent for the majority of people. However, I learned the hard way that for myself, putting a paycheck behind what you love to do, your hobby, could also kill your love for that hobby. So, after working on other people's cars, I could barely stand coming home to work on my own fun little projects. What I used to consider an absolute blast, replacing broken parts or changing my car to my own liking, I now consider an unbearable chore, and I still think that way after quitting to this day. Reason number 2, the inconsistent work days and inflating work expectancies. The actual work itself fluctuates a lot. One day we could have 6 cars come in all at once wanting brand new tires, and the very next day we could have 0 cars come in and end up just standing around doing nothing for the rest of the workday. This isn't at fault to any shop. I'm sure just about every shop has this kind of problem. That's probably just how it works. But because of this, I was either standing around doing nothing for an entire day, or I was having to change tires on every car in the state. I personally hated this cycle of work because our shop would refuse to reschedule cars, and they would bring in every vehicle, no matter what the size, brand, or size of the job that it had attached to it. And if the shop overscheduled and it started to back up, naturally people would leave reviews about how the oil change is taking so long, typically because we had 6 or 7 cars already in front of it, or we were standing around waiting for an oil filter from AutoZone that was incorrectly ordered 3 different times because it's on a car none of us have ever heard about before. Any bad reviews or customer complaints were immediately blamed on us and the service writers. Even though we could only work so fast and the service writers weren't allowed to reschedule cars. Another thing to add to this was, as our work culture went along, we kept being expected to do more and more, and we had to deal with inflating workloads. Plus, having to compete with our coworkers on the lube rack for a possible technician position compounded the problem, making the rest of us try even harder to at least not fall behind, which only helped to contribute to my third issue. Reason number 3, dealership drama and the toxic work environment. I have heard many people talk about this on YouTube, but I got to experience it firsthand that dealerships are cursed with drama. No matter what I tried to do, I was always pulled into the drama one way or another. It could have been literally about anything. To be as serious as an issue as pay, to as little of an issue as not hearing you say something or accidentally mishearing someone. Just about every day, like clockwork, one of our shop divas or dramatic people would have an early morning freak out and slowly let it snowball into a meltdown. Also, I never thought this would have been an issue, but for some reason, yes. Having a woman in the shop can easily triple the problem, and I don't mean that in a sexist way. If you have an already dramatic work environment and having all the attention now being thrown at the new girl, it tends to either drive out the generally nice people from the shop, or it turns generally nice people into drama-centered divas, due to all of the technicians acting immature. Not to mention, I've never seen shops take neutral stances towards the issue. I've only seen them either treat them like crap, or give some of the most unfair favoritism towards them, so they can continue to use them as a tool to promote their own brand of diversity. Either way they do it, they get treated like items and not people. Lastly, reason number 4. My shop showed no interest in training or helping us grow. While working or doing meetings, the thing that they would always tell us about all the time was becoming technicians and doing the online training to become full technicians. They would always say real technicians do this and do that, and all you need to do is your online training and shadow the older techs to learn new things. However, they would never tell us what we need to become technicians. They would never help us with the technical side of training. If courses were locked off to us, they would never help us with that kind of thing. And even if we had all of the training for a certain subject done, for example brakes, they would never let us actually do any brake jobs. During the slow days when we would go up to talk to technicians and actually shadow and learn from them, they would typically pull us away from those technicians and tell us to stop bothering them and make us go clean. So, because of that, I patiently waited my 2 weeks and left. Okay, where to next? Well, not anything to do with cars anymore. I can't go to any other dealerships because they made me sign a no competition paper that stated I can't go to another dealership within 80 miles for 3 years after quitting. So I can't go to another dealership. And none of the independent shops near me actually do anything more than alignments or brakes because of how small my town is, and not being close to any cities. So that's just it for me. I'm looking for something new. Even though I couldn't see eye to eye with my coworkers and they couldn't see eye to eye with each other, we did for the most part at least respect each other and our individual personalities and hobbies. Even though we were also vastly different, or the fact that we were having to compete over becoming the next tech, I will probably never forget the random shop memories I made while working there. So I know this rant definitely makes it look like being a technician is a horrible idea and that you should never do it, but that's not really the case. This experience was unique to me during my time as a lube tech. Your experience will probably be completely different from mine. Hopefully you can find a better environment where you can grow as a tech in this ever-changing industry. A couple recommendations I have so you can avoid the mistakes that I made that got me stuck in my situation and blocked me into my experience. To start with, if you're interested in cars, go for it. This was my experience and hopefully uniquely my own enjoyable experience, so don't be afraid to start your own experience. If you want to work on cars, try it. Next, one of the things that I didn't do when I first started was actually researching shops in my local area. I ended up just going straight to the nearest Chevy dealership because I wanted something close to home, and I also wanted to work with my favorite car brand. Who knows, I may have enjoyed working at Ford or even driving further out to work at a foreign car dealership. Do your own research, set boundaries for yourself and about the work environment you want. Independent or dealership, if air conditioning is important to you. Do you want to work on American or overseas cars? Are they making you sign any kind of sketchy paperwork? Set boundaries for yourself and stick to your boundaries. Don't accept a job you don't want to accept. And lastly, if you ever feel unhappy working, or if your growth is not where you're wanting it to be, then leave while you still can. Assuming you're seeing this as a beginner, don't feel afraid to leave while you're still young. There are hopefully other shops out there for you, or if you're like me, other careers out there. And definitely don't stay long enough to let this industry kill your passion for working on cars like it did me.